Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. Today, I'm honored to interview an amazing human being. This is Her Royal Highness Princess Noor bint Asem of Jordan. And today, we're going to talk, well, I don't know what we're going to talk about.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of it, because it's just a conversation. But hopefully, we'll get some nuggets of wisdom from this interaction that you can benefit from in your life.
Thank you, Maria. Always
Welcome.
a pleasure.
Same here. So, okay, how do we start this?
You know what came to mind as you were talking? The first time we met.
Oh my God. Okay, well, that was 2018, right? You were on your second pregnancy?
Extremely pregnant.
Extremely pregnant.
Bobbing around. And because I had so much backache and I needed to move, but I couldn't and all that. And then you came to the rescue.
That was an interesting time. We were introduced, and I remember went to the building up and we met. And what surprised me the most, look guys, I'm saying this because I truly, there's no BS here, okay? This is not like, right? But truly your kindness and warmth blew me away. And it makes it easy for me to be extremely generous and to really go the extra mile.
No, which you do. You're very thorough in your work. And I think that's why we've been working together for so many years as well.
It's crazy that it's been 7 years. Can you believe that?
I know.
Oh. Kids are going to school now.
They are.
Oof.
They give you a hard time now.
Yeah.
From the belly to giving you a hard time when they
Coach, look, I can do the plank. This is a true story. I can do the plank. And then they actually sit there and they go, oh, look at me. Yeah. High five and ask me to put my hand higher so they jump higher.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting journey. For the last 7 years, we've had a lot of conversations about what's really the meaning of this health and fitness world we try to bring into our lives. And I got to witness it and hopefully contribute in some way to the process. But I'm curious about what was it like for you going through those changes that actually I think very few people really can relate to, given that they're so personal and individual.
Yeah. I think for each person, as you said, it's so intimate, that journey of identifying your rhythm of well-being. First of all, what it means to you, how do you put it into practice, and how you can really commit to that. Having said that, I shared with you, I feel, the most vulnerable years because I gave birth, very sensitive period, postpartum. I tend to be an extreme emotional eater, and so you've really witnessed my lows. When I explored how large I could possibly be, and I've also explored how fit I can possibly be, and that's beautiful for me. However, it's genuinely for me since my teens, more or less, there's been this friction constantly about really finding that balance, that dance between it's part of my lifestyle, I know what to eat, I exercise, making it part of my identity. And I think still till today I struggle with it. I go through moments where I'm more stressed out and I fall into the poor habits, and you've witnessed that, and then I'm back on track, and then we're exercising all the time and building muscle, and so it's been a bit of everything. But I think what I still remind myself and go back to is just being kind in here with myself, and there's always that opportunity for redesign. If I didn't do it today, tomorrow I can start fresh. And it's that, that flexibility in the mind, that conversation. that is worth nurturing.
I've heard this. In fact, I would say I haven't heard it, but rather I've seen it. And people struggle to voice it when they go through these ebbs and flows. It's not... So we have the saying in the world of fitness is that if you look on Instagram and you see this buffed lady who trains all the time and so on.
The ones I like?
Yeah, I know. I remember the pictures and the posts. Like, what do you think about this? Can I do this? And it's part of that journey. It is part of that journey because part of that journey is understanding, or let's say exploring what's possible.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, is this part of what I would want to do and how I want to do it? But what's missing there is context. I think this game in part, I call health and fitness a game. I think it's a game. But when you think of games, you think of a game that you play against someone else. In fact, it is not.
It's yourself.
Exactly. And it's with the various roles in our lives. Every single role in our life is on the same board and they're playing ones against the other. And what we need to do is what you're saying there by this balance is to get them, instead of playing one against the other, but to play with each other.
Right.
And that is the journey that we're all on. Imagine you watch somebody on Instagram, and I think a lot of people will relate to this because this is what people do on Instagram. And you see, oh look, this is so amazing, and they did such a great job, but they don't share really how they do it. And they don't share the context in which they did it. And they don't share whether they had to compromise on a relationship in order to make the time for it, or on their role as a father.
Correct.
Or a son.
Yeah.
Or what is it that they've actually paid in order to achieve this? And I'm not referring to money, because in order to create something that wasn't there before, you have to put in something that you never put in before. That is, these are the forces that pull us. And in that context, as you've gone through this journey, I'm curious about the biggest insight that I've heard from you today, and I want people to get this really, not with 3 exclamation marks, capital letters, underscore and bold, is giving yourself the permission to reiterate.
Yeah.
As opposite to looking at as today's status as infinite. And that is one thing that I can say I've seen with people in their 80s who ended up running again, and people who are 200 plus kilograms and they've attained a higher level of fitness and health than they've thought possible.
Right.
In other words, if those extremes can happen, why can't something that is in your story happen?
Yeah. I think the beauty of that, as well as the challenge, is, at least in my personal journey, is awareness. So to understand this, I feel there's a foundational practice that we lack, which is getting to know ourselves from the inside, right? Knowing what triggers us, knowing what inspires us, motivates us, and with that comes priorities. And that's what I've learned, and I still struggle with fully accepting, if you will, but I do that like talk in my head, and I go through the steps, and to just calm down the struggle, the criticism, why are you here again, and blah 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 blah. You were there once, and I do believe, like you said, it has a lot to do with context. Life is not the same.
Nope.
Yesterday is different. Today is definitely tomorrow. So the fact that we're in constant flow of change, like change is that permanent, consistent element in our lives. There needs to be that inner conversation where you're like, okay, where are my priorities, right? The roles I play in my life, what can I dedicate more or less time to? What can I sacrifice or not? Do I not go out so that I can wake up early in the morning and exercise? Do I need to spend more time with family, friends, work? So I do think it's step one, or let's say the zero. The start is to identify one's values, your triggers, your motivators, and then be very proactive in trying to design that for yourself. Because sitting back and just saying, oh, I want to be fit, or oh, this is what I'd like, but then doing the same thing constantly, expecting different results.
That's insanity.
That's insanity.
That's
like
what Einstein said.
Exactly. It's like you chasing your own tail. So for me, what I feel has worked, is planning. You taught me a lot of that as well. You know, I love how you I get on a Friday, our schedule ahead, and we had
we had a few conversations about that. That's true. We met here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we did.
That was cool.
And that gave me a lot of like insight as well, because that's something I really admire in you as well, how you're prepared and you know what's coming, and with that comes a certain knowing, a certain strength, a certain, I don't know if the word is, it is control, but beyond control, it's like strength. You know, I feel strong when I know tomorrow I have this, and my time is allocated, and I respect my time, and I value my time, and that hour that I may be away from something else, I know it's productive.
Right.
So I just, again, it's different for everybody. However, I do think there is a universal formula to figuring it out, because at the end of the day, we're all presented with struggles of human beings. I mean, at the end, we share that on an emotional level, on a mental level, on mental health, on identifying values, purpose, prioritize. And I think it all comes in. It's all together. It's all part of that one journey, that experience, and it all affects everything.
Where do we start? Because when you hear that, and what I said earlier as well, and what you so eloquently shared, is it feels like it's an ocean. It feels like, and one thing that I think we all go through that at some point is we see today, what's most important today is not what's most important tomorrow. So what I'm thinking of is this person who had their life unfolded over the last few years, and they reach a point of inflection where they need to make a change. And I think we've all been there.
The life will gift you those moments.
Will gift you those moments, and you just don't know where they come. But when they do, typically there is a reaction, one that is painful for many. Like, why does this happen? Why me? And all of that kind of stuff. And then comes this acceptance to some extent, but begrudgingly, because we realize we don't have a choice. Once that is passed, which is a natural process for most of us, what's next? In your view?
I don't know. I feel there's just so much there. Again, it's going back to simplifying. Let's go to easy. Let's go to bites.
That sounds so cool.
Bites. You know, what can we bite and chew and swallow and handle? Little bite sizes. Like, what are the micro habits? What are the little things we can do on a daily basis that brings you that sense of well-being and health and feeling good? Movement is medicine, irrelevant of your background or what it is that you do. We don't do enough of it in general, and we, I don't have time, or I'm stressed, and I think bringing back the idea of really making it part of your home ecosystem, or the values at home or at schools or wherever. your influencing circles, those circles that condition us, as to really prioritizing mental health and physical health are crucial, especially in today's, and where we're headed, rhythm of life.
Rhythm is one thing that every person is individually geared in a different way. So that's the part that's difficult when you're looking at someone else's life and rhythm, and you say, I'd like to be that. But it might be the case when you're, a fish wanting to be a cheetah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just you might be not only in a different environment altogether, but you have different tools and different abilities that are suited for your circumstances in a much better way than somebody else's is in their circumstances. And comparison, I think, is just one of those. We can seek inspiration.
Correct.
Comparison is one that for many people I found to be very...
That's harmful. There's a layer of... it's a bit of a downer. Like if I compare myself to someone, which I do constantly, but it doesn't feel nice. However, if I change that perspective and I look at a person, I'm like, okay, what is it that I like? What inspires me about that person? What are the traits? So you have I feel you have layers.
Yeah.
So just, you need to get into the actual core of what it is that you like about this person. Is it their drive? Is it their work ethic? Is it the way they connect with a person? Is it the way what? Because on the surface, things can look so, mind-blowing. But more often than not, you scratch a little bit, and it's not always what it seems.
The vulnerable part in when a person goes through that idea of change is that they're looking for the easy way forward. Well, let me put it this way. It's wishful that the easy way is the best way, because then I can get as much out of doing as little.
Of course. Who doesn't want to?
How reasonable, or let's say how realistic is that frame of mind?
I mean, long term, I don't know. Like I'm victim of that, by the way. Of course I want the easy way. Are you kidding me? Like if I sit in a machine that gives me abs and fit legs and ready for the summer, and here I come, I'm the first one in that queue. But again, it's I don't know how we fall into. I do. I mean, it's social media. It's the world. What we're fed indirectly. All these messaging. I feel, again, mindset is everything. Working on the brain, what were our thoughts, bringing that layer of self-awareness, of reflection, of redesign, and really being in that zone of coming back to you, you taking responsibility for tomorrow's experience is very important. I feel I need to be proactive to set the tone for my day. It's up to me. It's up to me. Now, let's not take extreme circumstances as an example, but my day-to-day life depends on me.
We started with this conversation of health and fitness, and but then we gravitated to what's well-being.
Yes.
And well-being is, again, where we can say this individual thing, but truly is about positive moments worth remembering.
Yeah.
And when do those happen? Is it the confluence of the ability to experience, the daring to experience, saying yes,
and priming your mind to experience it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that you're identifying them. You're not
intentionality.
Yeah, like because that's the thing is it's a lot of people say, but nothing interesting happens. But the thing is that they're staring at the wall instead of turning towards the world. The big one that I would like us to explore a bit and to ask your take on is relationships. Because if we think back on every single thing we remember, there's a person there. And if there's not a person there, then that moment is important or significant, because it signifies a point in our relationship with us. Maybe it's an inflection, maybe it's a moment of reflection, maybe it's a time where we have a big aha moment that's worth keeping. But in other words, there's always a human wherever there's a memory. And how does one go about, first of all, I've just said that, it might not ring true for a lot of people. But if that does ring true for some people, how do they go about thinking of relationships and their connections with others and themselves? Oof.
You're bringing big ones. Again, I'm going to sound very repetitive, but that's going back to simplifying.
I don't think that's repetitive. I think we need to hear more of that.
Back to basics. So I love the fact that you bring up your relationship with yourself, because that's where it gets born. However, it really gets shaped in our childhood. How we understand and we are primed to relate. So did we get enough affection during our childhood? What was modeled around us? What did we experience? And that creates our default mode of relating and building and connecting and communicating. So I want to bring it back also to the element of self-awareness. As we grow into adulthood, and if we've been given the opportunity to practice self-awareness and getting to know ourselves and knowing what a healthy relationship looks like, how do you want to show up in a relationship, how you choose to communicate, then all these things fall in a beautiful way, like pieces of a puzzle, and they create this beautiful, let's say, moment or experience that you're able to have or to share with someone. Having said that, most of us, and I've lived these different phases in my own life, we live without that layer of awareness.
Just reactivity.
Exactly.
Based on the default.
Correct. So in my early 20s, I would just react to my surroundings and behave in ways that I never questioned. Because that's just what you do. That's all I saw. That's all I was taught. Growing up, I was never invited to a space of self-inquiry or to figure it out on my own, I was always told, this is how you behave, this is how you respond, this is when you speak.
Right.
This is right and this is wrong. And this is almost to the degree where I ignored my own intuition. I ignored my gut. And that kind of died. Like, poof, bye-bye. So it's taken me time to rebuild that understanding within myself of what is healthy communication. What is my relationship with myself? Do I love myself? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
What does that even look like? How do I bring that into action? And I think these conversations that we're having, the topics we're having, are very important when we do the theoretical space, and label them. But the key is bridging it into action.
Yeah.
How do I bring this into material practices, habits, rituals in my daily life so I can experience the positive behaviors of being in relationship or communicating or whatnot. So coming back to relationships, I would say there's absolutely everything and anything out there. People walk into your life to teach you certain lessons. Right. I do believe that sometimes we're just given the same, let's say, the word is coming in Spanish, no, not in English.
It's okay, we'll translate it.
The same patron, like the same pattern.
The same pattern.
Of a person who is challenging, for example. Oh, I always get this type of person in my life. That's a gift. What is it that you need to learn there? What's there for you? Because everything and everyone is a mirror. You're my mirror, I'm yours. Maybe I'm taking this a little too on the next level of...
Well, no, listen, here's the thing. You said practicality that I think is very important. But the reality is the frame of mind with which we approach challenges and what happens on day to day. Like you were mentioning, the gifts that were given and even the difficulties that were given. A lot of people run away from them, right?
Hard.
Because it's not the easiest thing to confront. And sometimes we're not saying that all bad that happens, you should embrace it, because there are things that are just genuinely evil. And one should just recognize them and then move away. But there's also this constant drive today for comfort and avoidance and labeling things like, oh, this is toxic. Oh, this is like infringing on my peace, and so I need to do some healing. In fact, the reality is, yes, we do need healing, of course, but where's the resilience going to come from if we constantly hide our way from what comes our way? And that's what you're saying, is embracing those, and that's not woohoo.
No, it's all an opportunity for growth.
It is a huge opportunity for growth.
And if that is your mindset, which I do believe it's an important piece that not everybody shares, in terms of every experience and every opportunity, irrelevant of your background, your career, your context, your family, etc., we always have an opportunity to become and be a better person than yesterday.
Constantly.
And what does that look like for you? And is that part of your drive? And are you aware of that? I've also come across a lot of people, oh, this is the way I am.
Oh.
That's it. I've been like this all my life. This is the way I am. But this is the way they are. But funnily enough, again, we go back to a lot of people who've said this in the past, where you change yourself, you change your inside, you change your perspective, you change your inner world, your inner dialogue, you start seeing things differently.
And that's
so
where people
around you and people around you start seeing things differently. You start seeing them differently. So the whole experience shifts.
So that's where people should start. It's not a question of saying, hey, look, there's this inflection point. I don't know what I'm going to do. Typically, there's a bunch of pressure that comes from different aspects of life. Maybe there's family or relationship pressure, some work, and some health, for instance. And they cannot reconcile themselves. In other words, if each of them need a piece from you, the pieces are too big for anything to be left out of allocating resources to each one. So it's like running bankrupt to the company, so to speak, right? You have to pay your debt, the supplier, and the clients don't pay you. So there you go. But in that context of inflection point, a lot of people look at the sources of these challenges as being external. And the reality is the solution is internal. And that is difficult for people to swallow.
Yeah.
Because it implies...
it is easier to blame.
It is so much easier to blame.
Yeah.
And then to hold on to the fact that I've been wronged and I should this and that. Even when it comes to health and fitness, so many people self-sabotage. Yeah. So many. Literally, they'll say, if I feel like I'm getting so much better, and then all of a sudden they disappear.
Yeah.
You wonder what's happening there. On the other hand, there are people who are using health and fitness or the exercise to deal with whatever else they don't want to deal with.
Right.
And we've seen, by the way, a lot of people, guys, we went into a different domain here, but stay with us. So many in our courses, a lot of people who come who say, I'm exerciser, I go to the gym all the time, One thing that we find they have the hardest time with is understanding intensity, load, and recovery.
Oof. But that's been, I know we're going again, but that's what I've learned most working out with you and your team and being part of the journey of experiencing the way you teach. Right. The importance of giving space for recovery, the importance of listening to your body and not pushing it and ignoring, my back is a bit funny today. because then I label myself as, oh, I'm being lazy today.
Yeah.
No, I need to attend to that first so that tomorrow I can actually work out.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's funny. It's very interesting to me, the different styles of training and principles. And again, each person resonates with one or the other, but that's one of the main techniques or styles that I have really enjoyed with you. Not only because of that, but it's helped me listen to my body.
In other ways.
And get to know it better. And understand how to do the exercise well. Or if I'm off, why could I be off, and where to look. And that's very valuable.
It's one of those other things that we're not taught.
No, we're not.
You're saying earlier that we get told what is right, what is wrong. We get our framework is built with the help of others and with the guidance of those who we trust early on in life. And what we see also that in early education as well, there's not a lot of emphasis on how do you actually grow into your own skin, so to speak, and understand that their journey is very unique to others, but there are some core principles that you would be able to use. Maybe how you use these principles looks different than how somebody else uses these principles. But nevertheless, they are universal because, well, we're still human. We still live on the same planet, so we share some commonalities.
Right. We share more than what we choose to realize. Like, we're more similar than what we choose to accept or admit.
How so?
I mean, emotions. That's our navigating principle in our lives. We all share emotions. We all feel things.
People don't admit that, do they?
We're human feeling being, walking,
vibing.
You know, that at its core is a huge connector.
Why people have such a hard time admitting that?
I don't think we speak enough about emotions. It's a huge piece when it comes to relationships, priorities, and understanding yourself. Again, it comes back down to the mind, like really understanding who you are, understanding how it works, and that space of being able to know, okay, I'm feeling this, how am I feeling it? And that skill of separating yourself from the emotion, realizing that it's an emotion, it's not necessarily you, and you can choose to feed into it and bring it into action, or take a few minutes and just say, okay, I see you, I see it manifesting, showing up, moving me, but it's up to me whether I want to play with it or not. Space. It's like when you get angry, you know how your body just gets hot, or your heart rate starts, getting really, and you just either go into that zone where it's just whatever's going to come out of your mouth is, not ideal, but it's like you've lost control. So you go back to the primal functions of what makes us human. Yeah, fight, flight,
freeze, right? It's interesting. What's brewing in my head is a framework, your framework. And I came up with 2 S's so far.
Okay. I love these things. Tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yes.
And space.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And there's a third one.
We need a third.
There is a third one.
What is the third?
Self first.
Self first. But then people would interpret that as selfish.
Oh, beautiful if they do. Because that's the one thing that I think we need to be more of.
But you see, selfish has such a...
We're not saying self-centered.
Pull down.
No, we're not saying self-centered. Self-centered means that everything else around us, doesn't matter, whatever it is, we want to pull to ourselves.
Of course.
No, but selfish implies that, yes, I'm going to do this just for me.
I don't know why I don't like that word very much.
Nobody does. But because we've been conditioned by whether it's education, you need to work in a team, you got to pass the ball. Anybody needs any help from you, you make sure you give it.
Because when you're told, oh, you're so selfish.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not selfish.
No, it's not. I agree with you.
So if we're
I agree with the concept, the practice of self-care.
Exactly.
Is not selfish at all.
Exactly.
No, it should be a priority for you to be able to later show up fully for your life and those around you.
What if that's one of the biggest reasons people have trouble? What if we're oversharing ourselves to the point where there's nothing left for us?
I think it's funny you say that. People I share my life with would laugh at this.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's when I said self first, is because I asked, okay, in that context of inflection point.
I love self first, self-awareness.
I said self first because it gives I do this with our frameworks all the time, where I think, okay, what's the most important thing that we can take out of this and lead to better outcomes? That's the question. What can be practically distilled and why? What seems to be most true? So if we're saying change starts within ourselves, then that's first.
True.
And that's perfectly fine. Exactly, that's the problem. If we have an inflection point, chances are we're being split into too many places.
True.
What if the critical mass is, I don't have anything left, but I still need to give more?
That happens a lot. Especially for women.
That's true, because of so many roles.
Not to undermine.
Right? Not to undermine. No. Let's be clear. Men have, and I look forward to having this conversation with a gentleman as well, because we have our own challenges as we go through life.
There's a lot of pressure there.
There's a lot of pressure.
There's a part of me that dislikes this whole, everyone struggles.
Everybody struggles.
With their weight of responsibility. Now, having said that, also society has contributed significantly to give more weight to one than the other, and the narratives that are there.
Yeah.
But so we go back to
three.
Simple, space,
and
self first.
Self first.
And you guys have a framework now.
Exactly, but we're gonna take it the other way around. How about because things need order.
Of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Things need order, right? So once again, we have I remember space, and what was the first one? Simple and
self
first. Okay. We gotta keep it simple and start with self first by creating a bit of space between us and others in the early part. Does that make sense?
It does.
Because if we have to find the answer within, chances are people around us are only going to reflect what they see, and they see the outside. They don't really get to see the inside. Very few people can actually have a conversation with a person and reflect what they truly see within that person.
It's a skill.
And it's very rare. And even if it's there, I find it's very difficult when a person is receiving feedback on their own challenges from a person who they share a part of their life with, because there's the point of view is from that person's perspective, from the interaction. Imagine if, for instance, spouses, myself, there is this constant concern that if a spouse shares who they are or what they challenge with their spouse, there's this concern from the spouse's part of, what does this mean to our relationship and interaction? How do I need to adjust? So all of a sudden it's no longer a simple answer. You think about the other dynamics.
Sure.
If we have children, the other spouse thinks of the dynamics between their spouse and everybody else in the family. So it becomes one of these, I'm not saying don't have the conversation, God forbid, no, please don't, and I'm not the expert, so don't. But I am saying that if we create that a bit of space and to have those conversations, I think the first person to have the conversation is oneself. is ourselves.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And you're not always going to find people who share, obviously, your perspective or understand where you're coming from or
yes.
have developed the skill or whatever, you know. So it's about that too. And I take things a bit lighter.
Right.
I feel sometimes life has become a little too serious, a little too heavy, a little too... And it's just finding those moments that lighten you up and play, have fun, find the moment of like lightness and giggles and I need to remind myself about that. My kids are a great reminder of that because they just come and suddenly just, you know, do something funny and I just crack up. But there's sometimes resistance in me. I've had a maybe challenging day or I'm worried about something and they come up and it's like, oh, Noor, shake it off. But there's a weird, very weird, and I don't know if this happens to you or to anybody else, there's like an attachment to wanting to be met, to wanting to be in the sticky space. And I find that fascinating in like the human composition. Why?
You keep coming up with S's.
I did? What did I say now? I don't know what I said.
Sticky spaces.
I think you're just focused on the S's.
Honestly,
right now.
it's just how my mind works. I'm sorry, you know.
Simple sticky spaces.
Seriously, not serious.
So let's bring, you know, let's just lighten up and enjoy life. It just goes by so quickly.
It does. I think that's a great moment to stop the conversation here.
I have no idea what we've talked about. Absolutely a cocktail
of things, but it's a great note to leave people with.
Your
S's, and lighten up a bit, and maybe seriousness
bring play.
Is. I need to be constantly reminded of that because I'm so intense when I think of something, and I'm always like go, and
really?
yeah.
I don't experience you like that.
Yeah, but like when I plan, if you see me planning, it's like Zoom is like there's nothing left to. It's like I take the time and squeeze as much as I can out of it.
But that's also necessary to be productive.
It is. You see, it's a journey of extremes, and I think we all have our ups and downs. So that for me is a great reminder. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, play a bit more, take it be a bit lighter.
I feel you're like that.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Maybe.
I get it. I mean, but I find specifically today I need to be reminded of that. You know, yesterday 2 days ago, we took this course for 3 days. So we took pictures of all the research, and there are like 600 articles, and within 48 hours I have folders set up, broken down, and I have assignments for each team member, and I just took those 600 and I said, guys, by next Friday we need to have the actual articles with a summary for each one of them, so we need to discuss which ones we're going to use, what are we going to disregard, and it's just so intense. And I'm reminded that I didn't really ask the guys if they want to do it. You know, I just jumped to the fact that it must be done. We got to get done. Otherwise.
And sometimes you need that. And
I think so.
And maybe then you just sprinkle a bit of fun afterwards.
Well, you know what? That reminds me. Maybe I do need to sprinkle some fun into that Friday workshop.
Team building, something.
Yeah, because it keeps that rhythm both productive. And there's some lightness to it as well. And I think that's the big thing.
We all need breaks.
You all need breaks. And even if it's a productive endeavor, it doesn't need to be a productive, serious, heavy, you know, sharp knives are out, right? If you forgot your shield, you're toast kind of thing. I just realized we didn't stop the conversation.
We wrap it up. And lightness and fun. Bring play.
Bring play back into life. And... guys, there's a lot to take out of this. We're looking forward to your comments. Okay, really looking forward to your comments on this one. I want to thank you so much.
Relax, it's a pleasure.
not for today, but for sharing your space and sharing a bit of your life with me over the last many years.
Mm-hmm.
It's an honor and a pleasure, and I hope we get to do more and more in the future.
Yeah, of course.
I think so. I think it's play with people you like.
Yeah, 100%. And then the people you like bring you more people
you like. Exactly. You guys will see Suhaib a bit later.
Yes.
We're probably gonna.
He's the
we need to dive into this guy's story a little bit.
Behind the scene.
Exactly. And on that note, comments below. Let us know what you think, and if you have any questions for Her Royal Highness or myself, tap it below, and we'll be sure to get back to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.